Hello, this is Thomas Millian with our next installment of our study on the Sabbath, the humanitarian anti-slavery purpose. The most explicit mention of the practical, compassionate reason for the Sabbath is found in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 14 and 15, which commands rest for every member of the household down to the animals. But the seventh day shall be a Sabbath to the Lord your God, on which you shall not do any work. You or your son or daughter, or your male servant or female servant, or your ox or your donkey, or any of your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. Sojourner is a visitor. You shall remember that you were once a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. This passage emphasizes rest for the powerless. The law specifically named servants, slaves, hired help, and animals who had no power to demand a day off. Without this law, a master could have worked them relentlessly. The Sabbath acts as an ancient form of labor law, designed to prevent burnout and death from overwork, empathy, and social justice. By commanding the master to give his servants the same rest he takes, it teaches a core principle of empathy rooted in their history. You were once a slave, therefore you shall not make slaves of others by working them to death. The theological and existential purpose. While preventing exhaustion is a key benefit, the primary reason goes deeper than physical preservative. The Sabbath is also about acknowledging that humans are not God and that life is not sustained by continuous human effort. Trusting God's provision by ceasing all labor for a full day. An agrarian society, where a day of missed work could mean real scarcity. Agrarian means farm work, declares that they trust God to provide for them, even with one less day of work. It betrays the tyranny of production. Acknowledging limits, the command sets a limit on work, reminding people that they are finite creatures created in God's image who need rest. God rested, not because he was exhausted, but to set a pattern up for humanity. We're designed for a rhythm of work and rest. Spiritual and mental health, the cessation of daily occupation. Cessation means stop, to cease, is not just an empty time. It's a time set aside for worship, spiritual reflection, and connection with family. The ultimate goal is rest for the soul, freedom from the anxiety of being perpetually busy, and a focus on what is holy and eternal. In summary, the Sabbath was implemented to prevent working oneself or one's dependents and animals to death, but it also served a critical function as part of a larger sacred principle to remind humanity of God's authority, their identity as free people, and their reliance on a Creator who worked for 6 days and rested on the seventh. We'll be back with our next installation on the lesson of the Sabbath.